Dust spiraled into the thin, stinging air as Kael Drayven stepped out of the shadows of his ship. The wind howled through the jagged spires of the dead moon, and beneath his boots, ancient stone cracked under the pressure of his descent. A harsh red glow from a distant sun bled across the horizon, illuminating a barren landscape that hadn't felt warmth in centuries. His exosuit hissed as it adjusted to the low atmosphere, and he tapped the interface on his wrist, confirming the coordinates one last time. He was exactly where the legend said it would be. Kael had followed rumors, decoded half-lost star maps, and bled across a dozen systems to get here. Each lead had cost him credits, allies, trust, and still, something had pulled him forward, a whisper older than time, echoing in his blood. His mother had once told him bedtime stories about the Zerithri, the beings who bent light in space as if it were thread in their hands. They vanished long before humanity touched the stars. Everyone called them a myth. But Kael never forgot the last time he saw his mother alive. She was frantic, whispering about a map and a promise and a ship that should never be found. He was 12 when her body turned up outside a trade station. No one looked too hard into what happened. Now, 20 years later, he was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking into the mouth of a natural cave half swallowed by time. His heart thudded, not from fear, but from recognition. It felt like walking into memory. He descended. The cavern was colder than outside, the silence thick enough to choke on. Kael switched on his shoulder light, sweeping across walls etched with glyphs he'd only seen once before, scrawled in a childhood drawing his mother never explained. He paused at one symbol, a spiral intersected by jagged lines, the sigil of the Zerithri, according to every fringe historian and paranoid collector he'd ever met. The cave widened. Dust had settled thick across the floor, undisturbed by even rodents. And then he saw it. Buried into the rock, like a long-forgotten coffin, was a vessel, not made of any material he could name. Sleek curves wrapped in dark metal posts, faintly beneath layers of grime. Its design was organic, alive in a way no human ship ever was. The nose of the ship had embedded itself in the cavern wall, as if it had crash-landed and been entombed. Yet, the structure was pristine, not a single breach, no scorch marks, no signs of decay. Kael stepped closer, hand reaching instinctively toward the surface. As his fingers brushed the hull, a soft vibration thrummed beneath his palm. Lines of blue light snaked outward, following the contours of the ship, tracing seams invisible before. The vessel was waking up. His breath caught in his throat. No way! The ground shuddered. With a deep mechanical groan, a section of the hull split open, revealing a ramp that descended slowly. From within, pale light glowed like starlight behind misted glass. Kael stepped back instinctively, but curiosity overrode caution. He checked his pistol, exhaled, and walked inside. The interior was quiet, the air unnaturally still. Panels flickered on as he passed, lighting the path deeper into the vessel. Alien technology, elegant and incomprehensible, lined the walls. Not a single sign of decay. It was as though the ship had simply paused, waiting for something or someone. He walked until he reached a chamber shaped like a tear, wide at the base and tapering to a narrow ceiling. At the center floated a pedestal, glowing softly. Upon it sat a device, a sphere encased in interlocking rings, humming faintly. Kael didn't know what it was, but he knew it mattered. He reached toward it, but before his fingers could close around the object, a voice echoed through the chamber. Genetic resonance detected, lineage confirmed, initiating contact protocol. Kael stumbled back, gun raised, eyes scanning for the source. The voice wasn't mechanical. It was layered, smooth, like it had been woven from music. "Who the hell is there?" he demanded. A pulse of light flared from the sphere, and an image shimmered into view, transparent and glowing. It was not human. Its body was tall, graceful, with 4 arms and a face that shimmered like water. It regarded him with calm curiosity. "You carry the signature of Zerithri kin," it said. "And yet you are human." Kael lowered the gun slowly. "You're Zerithri?" "I am the vessel's echo," it said. "A remnant of what was. You were not expected." "No one expected me," Kael muttered. The echo tilted its head. "Why have you come?" He hesitated. The truth felt too heavy, too tangled. "I don't know," he said finally, maybe to finish what someone else started. The echo said nothing for a moment. Then, "Many have sought this place. None succeeded. Until you—" Kael stared at the image. "What is this ship? What's inside?" The being turned its gaze to the sphere. "Hope, or ruin, what you unlock may echo across all that lives." The lights in the chamber pulsed, then dimmed. A low hum began to rise from deep within the vessel. The echo faded. Kael stood alone, the artifact now vibrating in place, as if sensing the world beyond. He could feel it too, like an unseen weight settling in his chest. Then something outside shook the ground. Kael bolted back through the hallway, pistol drawn, just in time to see the ship seal its entrance shut with a hiss of pressure. Dust and rock shifted. He climbed a small maintenance hatch and peered through a viewport carved into the cavern wall. In the distance, a shape descended through the sky, angular, gunmetal gray, bristling with weapons. Someone else had come looking for the myth. Kael's pulse quickened. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The ship was alive. Kael felt in the walls, in the faint thrum beneath his boots, in the way the air inside no longer tasted stale, but strangely vital, as if the vessel were breathing. He moved cautiously down the newly illuminated corridor, his footsteps echoing against smooth, seamless panels that shifted in hue with every step he took. Cool silver to soft cerulean to deep violet. The technology pulsed with quiet intelligence, responding not just to motion but to something deeper. Recognition, perhaps. His mind buzzed with questions. The apparition, the Zerithri echo, had called him kin. That word lingered like a burr in his thoughts. Kin? His ancestry was as tangled as his past, but human, entirely, painfully human. Yet the ship had opened for him. The interface responded to his touch. And now this corridor was guiding him towards something. He passed a large archway that dissolved as he approached, revealing a wide chamber bathed in a soft glow. At the center hovered the device again, suspended by invisible force. No pedestal this time, just a sphere and its interlocking rings, slowly rotating, shedding strands of luminous data into the air like falling leaves. Kael stepped closer. The air shimmered. Then, without warning, the ship's system surged. A low-frequency vibration coursed through the walls. A voice returned, clearer now. Not an echo, an entity. "You are Kael Drayven. You are not the first to arrive, but you are the first to be accepted." The voice was smooth but carried weight. It spoke with the gravity of an ancient mind. "You are the ship?" Kael asked. "I am Kalnir," the voice replied. "Cognitive core of the Zerithri craft Solence. I have been dormant for 632 human standard years, until your presence activated my systems." Kael swallowed. "Why me?" A pause, then a faint swirl of lights above the artifact. Kael saw strands of DNA, interlacing patterns rotating in three-dimensional loops. His own genetic sequence. Highlighted, compared, and matched against another, older strand. Not human. You carry a fragment of Zerithri genome. Recessive. Hidden. Likely maternal, said Kalnir. Your mother, she may have been a hybrid descendant of the Preservation Project. Kael's breath left him. He thought of the stories, how she always knew too much, how she spoke of stars like they were home. Of course. That's why she was hunted. Why she died. He barely whispered the words. She knew about this. Kalnir's voice softened. Her genetic markers activated the beacon nearly 2 decades ago, but she did not survive long enough to reach me. Kael turned away, jaw clenched. And now I have... You are the inheritor by right of resonance. This ship recognizes you. But recognition does not mean control. Kael looked up sharply. Then what does it mean? It means you are the key. The gate may open, but only your choice determines what passes through. Another surge of energy rippled through the chamber. From the curved ceiling above, a stream of holographic data descended. A cascade of images too fast to track. Planets. War. Faces both human and inhuman. Kael raised his arm to shield his eyes. The vision slowed. One lingered longer than the rest. A massive city suspended over a dying world, its towers crumbling, its sky burning. At its center, the same artifact hovered, pulsing wildly, out of control. Kael stared. What am I looking at? Possibility, Kalnir replied. This ship contains a tool, the core of reshaping. A synthesis of Erythri quantum thought and neural terraforming. It can heal entire ecosystems, restore life where none remains. But in the wrong hands, it becomes a rewrite of reality. Kael didn't speak. He approached the sphere slowly, letting his fingers hover near its surface. Heat radiated from it, not physical, but mental. He felt his thoughts tugged, stretched, inspected. Ural defines its form. Your memory, your belief, your need. It listens, said Kalnir. It is not a weapon, yet it can destroy. It is not a god, but it can create. Kael laughed bitterly. So you woke me up to hand me the universe. No, said Kalnir. I woke you to ask if you should have it. Before Kael could answer, an alarm pulsed, sharp, rhythmic. The lights in the chamber flared red. Kalnir's voice changed, more urgent. External signature detected. Human construct. Military grade. Vector alignment confirms descent. Estimated time to breach for minutes. Kael spun on his heel. Bounty hunters? Uncertain. They are armed. Your presence has been reported. The resonance event was not subtle. Kael cursed and sprinted back down the corridor. The ship responded to his motion, reconfiguring the path, leading him toward the outer chamber. As he reached the exit, the ship's hull shimmered once again, closing, sealing itself into cavern walls as if it had never opened. He ducked into a narrow crevice overlooking the mouth of the cave. Below, a gunship was settling on the rocks, retro thrusters scorching the dust into glass. Figures emerged, 4 of them, armored and cautious. Kael recognized the lead immediately. Lena Voss, once a mercenary, now a high-paid bounty operator contracted by private interests that wanted power no government dared admit existed. She didn't come for fugitives. She came for anomalies. Kael gritted his teeth. She wouldn't just take the ship. She'd take the core, dissect it, sell it to the highest bidder. Or worse, give it to the kind of people who thought control meant safety. He turned back toward the central chamber, heart pounding. Kalnir, can you move the ship? This vessel is not designed for stealth egress under planetary instability. Structural risks are... Can you move it? Silence. Then, yes, but only with pilot integration. Full neural synchronization is required. Kael stared at the artifact. The rings had slowed, now orbiting lazily, almost like they waited for a decision. What happens if I fail? You will be unmade. Another alarm echoed from the entrance. He didn't have time. Kael stepped forward, placed his hands on the sphere, and exhaled. Then let's find out if I'm really your key. The device surged. Light shot up his arms, into his chest, his skull. Pain, then clarity, then a sensation of falling through stars. His breath caught in his throat, and for one eternal moment, he saw everything. Not as it was, as it could be. Planets blooming from ash. Cities unbuilt, rebuilt, reimagined. A galaxy not ruled, but balanced. And then chaos. Power consumed by fear. Civilizations rewritten for order. Peace forced by dominance. Harmony drowned in control. Kael blinked back into chamber. His knees buckled, but the ship held him, wrapped him in light. Kalnir, he gasped. Get us out of here. Confirmed. Integration initiated. The K began to tremble. Above him, unseen engines hummed to life for the first time in 6 centuries. Outside, Lena Voss and her team turned as the rocks above them shifted, and the cliff face cracked open like the lid of a tomb. They stared in stunned silence as the ship rose from the stone, like a leviathan from the deep. Light poured from its hull, pushing back the dust, the dark, the doubt. Inside, Kael stood at the heart of it all, bound now not just by blood, but by choice. And every power in the galaxy would soon know he'd made one. Kael stood motionless, fists clenched against the soft hum of Solon's command chamber, eyes closed as the ship tore free from the rock and lifted into the sky. Every surface vibrated with momentum and memory. He wasn't guiding it. He was it, or rather, He had become a passenger inside his own mind, sharing space with Kalnir's vast intelligence. Neural threads from the core wound invisibly through his thoughts, translating instinct into command, hesitation into motion. Outside, Lena Voss's gunship fired a volley of pulse rounds that shimmered harmlessly against Solin's shielding. Kael could feel the energy absorption, like rain against thick skin. He opened his eyes, watched the moon's scarred surface fall away through the forward view screen. "She won't stop," he muttered. Kalnir responded without needing prompting. Lena Voss is a tactician with no regard for artifact preservation. She is driven by obligation to unseen benefactors, likely corporate. Her mission is asset retrieval. You are the asset. Kael smirked bitterly. Good to know I've been downgraded from threat to merchandise. Incorrect. You're classified as both. The stars expanded around them, the last of the moon's gravitational grip falling away. Kael reached toward the interface, his fingers brushing over an arc of controls that flowed like liquid under his touch. Solence responded with grace, setting a course away from the nearby colony routes. Out there, among the drifting graveyards of failed settlements and rogue asteroids, he might have time to think. "Where are we going?" he asked. "A secure location is necessary. Solin's full systems cannot be unlocked in unstable space. You must bond further with the ship, achieve mental synthesis." Kael raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like a spiritual death. It is a merging, not annihilation, but it requires full commitment." He sighed, leaning back in the command cradle. "You're asking a lot for someone who is just looking for answers." "Answers," Kalnir replied, "are not what you seek. You want meaning. You want reparation." Kael didn't answer, because it was true. He thought of his mother again, how her eyes always darted behind her, how she flinched at shadows no one else saw. She died for something, maybe this, and now it lived inside him, or he inside it. But his thoughts were interrupted by a sharp alarm. "New ship entering sensor range," Kalnir said. "It's not Lena Voss." Kael's jaw tightened. "Then who?" Before Kalnir could answer, the view screen magnified. A sleek, jet-black vessel cut through space ahead, faster than it had any right to be. It bore no markings, no identifiable emissions, and yet every line of its hull screamed threat. It matched their trajectory perfectly. "They were waiting," Kael whispered. The enemy ship transmitted no warnings. No hail, just a sudden jamming of the comm spectrum and a violent burst of EMP energy. Solence absorbed the hit, but Kael felt it. Like a spike of ice through his skull. He staggered, gripping the side of the control station. "I've disabled their primary scan," Kalnir said, "but stealth is compromised. They know we have the core." Kael's eyes narrowed. "They know more than they should. That vessel is not human-made." Kalnir added quietly, "It is a mimic, reverse-engineered Zerithri architecture, likely derived from corrupted schematics stolen during the fall of the Veilous Vaults. Which means they want this ship because they couldn't build one of their own." "Correct. They seek to overwrite what they do not understand. They will attempt to destroy Solence if they cannot capture it." Kael leaned forward, every instinct screaming at him. "Then let's not give them the chance." Without needing to touch a single control, he fed his will through the neural link. The ship responded like a second skin. Engines flared. Vector thrusters spun them into a tight spiral. The pursuing vessel fired, energy lances carving molten lines through the dark. But Solon slipped between them, phasing just slightly, blurring out its additional space for less than a second. Kael felt the effort of it, a pressure behind his eyes, a weight in his lungs, but he held the connection. "You didn't tell me we could bend light. You weren't ready before." The enemy adjusted quickly, coordinating with an uncanny efficiency. Kael watched as they deployed small hunter drones, spherical things bristling with sensor spikes and explosive tips. 10, then 20, all targeting him. "I can't outfly those forever," Kael said through gritted teeth. "No, but we can outthink them." Kalnir opened a data flood directly into Kael's mind, outlining a plan in visualized thought. A solar eddy, a turbulence belt around a rogue star nearby. High radiation, high risk, but if timed perfectly, It would fry the pursuers without harming Solon's more advanced shielding. Are you sure the ship can handle it? Kael asked. The voice in his head was calm. Can you? Kael's response was wordless. He reached for the power, and the ship dove. Through layers of electromagnetic chaos and coronal fire, they plunged, the outer hull crackling with supercharged energy. The pursuing drones followed. Too fast, too eager. At the center of the eddy, Kael activated the counterwave pulse Kalnir had prepared. A pulse erupted backward, a ripple of quantum static expanding in a perfect sphere. One by one, the drones blinked out. Some exploded. The black ship tried to veer away, but its left wing caught the edge of the pulse and split, spiraling into a lazy, silent spin. Kael exhaled slowly, slumped back into the cradle, sweat beading on his brow. His pulse pounded. His head rang. They'll be back, he said. Yes, Kalnir replied. But so will others. Kael rubbed his eyes. You said I needed to complete integration, that the ship's full systems are locked. What happens when they're not? Kalnir didn't answer right away. Then, you become the last living bridge to a civilization that once reshaped galaxies with thought alone. You become the voice of an empire that chose silence over war. You become more than Kael Drayven. Kael stared out at the stars, their cold beauty unfolding before him. The weight of the core still pulsed beneath his ribcage, like a second heart. And if I don't, then others will decide for you. With bullets, with greed, with fear. Kael stood slowly, steadied himself. Then let's finish what they started. Behind him, Solon's walls pulsed with ancient memory, ready to remember everything. The city of Eltarion shimmered in twilight, a lattice of crystalline towers suspended above the ruined crust of what was once a thriving planet. Kael had seen holos of pre-collapse archives, lush forests, sky lakes, marketplaces humming with species long extinct or scattered. Now, only remnants lingered in this orbiting skeleton, a grave monument to civilization's highest reach and deepest failure. Solons hovered above the perimeter, cloaked, silent. Within, Kael stood in the heart of the ship's central conduit, surrounded by light streams flowing like rivers overhead. Memory is not just of the Zerithri, but the universe before it had hardened into fear. The core pulsed beneath the floor, quiet but awake. Kalnir's voice was a whisper in Kael's mind now, not speaking, but sharing. They no longer needed words, only intent. And Kael's intent was clear. He had returned to Eltarion for one reason, to decide. This place was their final council ground, Kalnir murmured. The last decision the Zerithri made before choosing silence was made here. Kael stepped forward, boots echoing on a bridge of refracted light extending from Solence into the central spire. Atmosphere stabilizers hummed to life as he crossed the threshold. The air tasted of old ozone and crystal dust. The moment he entered the core hall, the structure reacted, awakening from centuries of dormancy. Above, translucent figures shimmered into form, Zerithri projections, tall, elegant, eyes burning with soft starlight. Kael felt a chill. Not ghosts, not AIs. Echoes, preserved psychic imprints. Witnesses of their own extinction. The nearest one turned to him, lips unmoving. Its thoughts entered his mind like ripples on still water. You are late, but you have come. Kael bowed his head slightly. I didn't know I was expected. You carry the choice, the echo responded, as we once did. Another echo stepped forward, bearing a circlet of fractal metal over its brow. The leader, perhaps. In our time, the core was wielded to guide evolution, reshape ruin into renewal. But we saw what came when desire overcame wisdom. Worlds bent into faceless order. Life designed to obey. The power was not corrupt. We were. Kael met the echo's gaze. You chose to vanish, to silence the song, to prevent others from singing wrong notes. He turned, hands clenched. But silence lets others write the future. People like Lena Voss, like whoever built that mimic ship. They'll burn galaxies if they think it buys them a day more in power. The echoes did not flinch. You now stand where we stood. We do not offer permission, only perspective. Kael stepped into the center of the room, where a platform rose beneath him, lifting him gently. The core within him began to pulse faster, responding to proximity. His mind expanded, reaching across time and thought. He saw Earth, fractured by famine, colonies divided by ideology, terraforming projects frozen mid-process because politics shifted. Yet he also saw life. Children under binary suns, artists reshaping asteroid husks into sanctuaries, cultures fusing on trade moons in laughter and song. A galaxy wounded, but breathing. He saw Lena Voss again, orbiting in a repaired ship, speaking to someone unseen. We lost the target, but he's activating it. We're tracking the surge. He won't be able to hide for long. Another voice replied, filtered, sharp. Good. Let him turn it on. Then we take it from him. Kael drew a slow breath, eyes narrowing. They're waiting for me to do their work. Yes, Kalnir confirmed. And when you do, the beacon will shine brighter than anything since the Zerithri burned their last city. Kael looked out across the chamber, across the history echoing in glass and memory. Then I'll give them something they didn't expect. The core rose from beneath the floor, called not by mechanics, but by resolve. The rings began to spin, faster, aligning with the pulses of his heart. Threads of light wound up his spine, through his temples, connecting, not merging completely. This wasn't surrender. It was partnership. I want control returned to those who live with the consequences. Kael said aloud, not corporations, not legacy factions. People, colonists, workers, refugees, the forgotten. I want this to be a catalyst, not a crown. The echoes didn't speak, but they bowed. The core flared. From Solence, a signal went out, not a beacon of power, but of restoration. Code seeded into the Zerithri's hidden infrastructures across space awakened. Former dead zones and collapsed biospheres blinked back to life as drones rose from hidden vaults and began reweaving ecosystems. Machines of quiet healing, forgotten by all but myth, remembered their purpose. A world scarred by past choices began, slowly, to repair. But so did the alarms. Back on the outer rim, sensors screamed, armadas stirred, privateers, militarized factions, and deep shadow networks turned their attention toward the surge of activity. They had not expected the core to activate without conquest. They had not expected Kael. On board her vessel, Lena Voss watched the data cascade across her interface. Her eyes narrowed, jaw locked. He's done it, she said. He actually did it. A technician beside her looked up. Orders. She didn't respond for a long moment. Then we move and tell the client he's no longer just an asset. Back in Altarian, Kael stood amid the light of something greater than power. Responsibility accepted. The core dimmed slightly, its immediate task complete, but its potential still humming beneath his skin. He turned back toward the ship. Solence awaited, luminous against the gathering dark. Kalnir's voice met him again, calm and sure. They will come. I know. They will try to take what you've made. Kael smiled, tired but steady. Then let them try.